Today on Two Dudes Garage, we make some subframe connectors for the Rogue One, my 1966 AMC Rambler American Rogue. They're not that difficult to make, just a couple of pie cuts, a few bends, a little bit of trimming, but they're a little bit of a pain and a little bit tricky to get mounted in the car. I'll show you why down underneath. Okay, so what I'm going to do today is work on my subframe connectors here in the Rogue. You can see these are fairly dented up from just people jacking it up incorrectly and stuff through the years, or high, dead centering it on something. So I don't know. What I've got is some 1/8 wall 2x3. Actually, I think it's 120. Oh no, this is a 083 wall 2x3, and it'll make a straight shot from here at the front frame rail to the back frame rail to the inside of the back frame rail. But I don't like the way that hangs, and it kind of interferes with where I want to put my mufflers when I redo all of this. So what I've done is create it's exactly 3 inches offset from here in this way to the rear frame rail. So it goes at an angle, and so this ends up being 3 inches to the outside of this. So I made another piece that makes that jog. It's a test piece to see if it would work. Bring that in and show it to you. Kind of show you generally what I'm thinking on how it should fit up, and then we'll pull out and I'll show you how I'm gonna make it. So what I've done here is I've cut the top off of this section, and I will section this little piece out because I'll show you at a different angle a little bit later. But this whole frame rail coming off the front tapers from about 3 inches, 2 3/4 inches or so at the front, the firewall, and it tapers down to just about 3/4 of an inch right here where this kick up is. So I want it to be closer to at least 2 inches all the way back, which is what it is just in front of where it starts to kick up. It's right at 2 inches. So I'm going to section this portion that's dented and takes the turn up. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that and go to this 2x3 all the way down, so I have a 2-inch frame rail all the way back. And I don't know how much that'll show up on the camera in this angle, but I've bent it, I've cut it and notched it so that it has a 3-inch kickover on it, and on the end here I still have to trim this up, but I cut a 45 on the back to box this in, just to kind of seal it up from all the weather. I'm going to do something to seal up that front as well, just so I don't have to deal with any rust issues where I can't really get a good weld. I might be able to get a weld up here, but if I can't, then I'll box the front in as well, so that I don't have to worry about anything getting in there and rotting all of that stuff out. But the way this will work, if I can get it on my is, you can see where this will need to get sectioned out, and then down here on this end so up here you can see that I will cut this section out. This will come back to right about here where this dent is. I'll straighten that dent out, and then it doesn't go quite all the way up because of the way the pan is shaped. So it'll sit down about a 1/2 inch here, and whatever the difference is in the back in this section, I'll just go ahead and bring a taper up to that. So this will be the only 2-inch section or thin section back here. It'll look a little strange from the side, but it's the best compromise I can come up with without having to cut all the way back into the front of the floor pan to get it done. But all I've done is right back at the rear rocker, this has an angle on it, so this will sit right there, and like I said, this will, I'll cut this out and that'll slide all the way in straight and flush and true. So I'll change the angle. I'll go ahead and get this part cut out, or at least started cutting out. That back section is about ready to be finished up, and then once we go through this, I'll walk you through the whole step of how I built this and what I did. It's pretty simple. So most of this will probably be me fighting with this piece right here, just trying to get it to fit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a straight board or a straight tube all the way back where it fits in as snug as it can and still be straight, so I don't have to add yet another bend to this, or another, notch cut to get a bend out of it or whatever. I'm going to use that to mark the height that I need to cut this, and then I'll go ahead and get that chopped off. You all don't have smell-o-vision, but if you could, you'd smell my beard burning right now. Right in the ear. Right in the ear. How does it know? Whoa. Blah. I've started to make the notches to fit here because this piece is probably going to get trimmed. Move back even more than this, just a little bit more. Which I'll trim this back to meet that, and then this piece will fold up, that piece will fold down just a little bit there, and I'll gusset all that stuff in together and clean it up to make it nice and square. The problem I'm having right now, you can see there is a space between the subframe connector and the floor pan right here. It's about 1/4 of an inch. I could put a bunch of plates and stuff in there, but what I think I'm going to do is it's hitting right here at this cross brace, which I'm going to be reinforcing with outriggers going out to the outer portion of my frame, both in the front and the rear and the middle. So I'll be reinforcing this so this becomes less necessary. So what I'm going to do is notch this so that it can go up just as snug as it can, and there is one of these bead rolls in the pan that runs from here all the way down to here, and I'm going to go inside the car and put a slit down the center of that, bring my dolly out and hammer it out flat, and then that way those two things will allow this to go snug all the way against the floor. When I weld the pan back together, I'll also tack it through. I won't just overlap it or pull it up. I'll leave a little gap so I can run a stitch all the way down the length of the subframe connector. So heaven help the next person, if there ever is a next person that tries to take these pans out, it will be a pain, because these will be tied in and welded in here. Will be welded this entire length down here. So the pan will be more than strong enough. I'm not worried about losing that ridge for anything, and I'm not worried about losing any structural rigidity because of this cross brace, because it'll be tied in here. And again, I'm going to run an outrigger up here, probably actually right in here. I tend to weld up the drain holes. Water's in my car. Terrible things have already happened, so I don't care about those. But I'm going to probably plate this whole section here for being able to jack it up and that kind of stuff. So this will probably get an outrigger here and a reinforcement plate up here, as well as a cross brace, an additional outrigger here, and another large plate and outrigger here, because this point is super weak and I can't actually jack my car up. I have to end up jacking it up off way on the inside on the frame, or off of the shackle mount or something like that down here. So once I get that trimmed out and fitting a little better, I'll bring you back and show you what I've done. Now I'm going to cut this piece from inside. Stuff I'll clean up. The second cut was, once those two edges came together, I wanted to make sure there was still a gap, so when I run my bead, I'm penetrating through the floor pan and down to the subframe connector. So, light's a little weird down here. Alright, so this piece right here, like I said, will get turned up. It may not be quite long enough, but that's fine. I'll just put another plate on it when I go to gusset all this stuff together. This piece still has to come down, because if you can see in here, this piece here has a big dent where it was crushed underneath here, so now this is poking way out. So I got to put a slit in the bottom corner of the frame and hammer that back down, so this will come down considerably, and then when I do that as well, I'll pull this piece down. So hopefully this piece and that piece will kind of match up. I can always pull it back a little bit further if I need to, and then cut this a little bit further back, because this is easily adjusted up here. I can take another, you know, 1/4 inch or something pretty easily if I want, and still be fairly well lined up. So now you can see it fits much better back here. Like I said, there's a couple of little weld bumps and stuff sticking out that I'll need to dress down and flatten out. But now I'm fully tied in to the side of the frame rail, and so what I'm probably going to do is get this tack welded on, and then put a plate on the back side of the frame rail on this side that goes up along the inside of the rear frame rail. But that's what we've got. Nothing big. Just marked my points here, cut about a 1/2 inch section out, wired it down and brought it over. I marked out the angle that I wanted on my workbench, and then just trimmed it till it matched up to that. So, alright, when we start welding stuff up, I'll bring you back. Okay, so what I'm doing here is, since I drew out on my bench here the angle that I needed to go from right here, I needed to drop it back 3 inches and then go square again. So I marked that out to make my first one, which is my test pattern. I wanted to do that first to make sure this was going to work before I bothered to go through all the filming. So what I've done now is I've gone through and I've marked the center on my bend points, both sides, and I know roughly what I need to remove, so I'll just mark all of this stuff up. See if I can get you better in frame. That way, so I took a piece out of this side, so on this one, I want to take it out of this side. So what I did is I took it out of this piece here, I took it out of that side on that one, so I want to take it out of this side over here. That turned out to be ½ inch. Booger welding done. Everything should be secure enough to just go ahead and start fitting it on. I'm going to go ahead and set that one to the side, let it cool off. I'm going to go ahead and go back to the first one I was working on and get it fitted up to the car just right. Then I'll bring you back. So that is my final cut. Get dressed up, cleaned up. There's just a touch of fitting to do right here. It'll grind a little bit off. Then all that stuff will come out easily weldable. Same along that line and up there. Should be able to get my welder in there pretty well along the top. I gave it this extra gusset along the bottom there, and fits pretty good all the way down. Right down at the very end, there's just a little bit of a gap, but I think once I weld the front, get it tacked on pretty well, I can jack it up from back there. There's a wrinkle in the pan that I think is causing it that I might be able to straighten out. But I'm fully rested on the pan, all in the center here where I made that cut, right along from here all the way down to the back side. Well, use my foot. From there to my foot is a cut in the floor pan. I'll take you up top and show you that. So this is that cut that I made in the floor pan. It was in one of these bead rolled grooves. All I do is make a slit. You can see where it moves right there. So I'll go through and I'll clean that up, and I'll leave like a little 1/8 inch gap all the way down, and I'll just do a stitch weld all the way down that will secure this back pan, which was a little weak anyways, to that subframe connector, and that should give the pan considerable amount more strength. And I'll do the same thing on the other side. So it looks like there's something sticking off the bottom of the torque box back there that's causing the back end to stick out just a little bit, but we'll get that taken care of when we get to that. All right.